All right, folks, buckle up. We're diving deep into the world of bipolar disorders today.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one.
We got a ton of requests to unpack this whole chapter on bipolar from the Handbook of Clinical Psychopharmacology for Therapists. And let me tell you, it is a beast.
Oh, it is. Definitely a dense one.
But you know us, we're going to break it down, make it fun, and make it fascinating.
Absolutely.
By the way, did you know there's a possible link between bipolar disorder and creativity?
Oh, yeah, there are some interesting theories about that.
We'll get to that, but first, I'll lay the groundwork, right?
Right. Got to start with the basics. Most people think bipolar is all about mood swings, happy one minute, sad the next.
Yeah, that's what I thought too before I really dug into this.
But it's so much more than that. The DSM-5, which like we've talked about before, is kind of like the mental health Bible for diagnosing. It defines bipolar as extremes of energy, behavior, even thinking patterns. It's not just how you feel, it's how those feelings impact, well, everything.
Okay, so it's more like experiencing life on a different level of intensity, like everything is amplified.
Exactly. And this is key. It usually happens in cycles. It's not just random. There are patterns to these shifts, which is a big part of how we diagnose it.
So there are patterns, intense shifts in multiple areas. It's already sounding more complex than just mood swings.
It is, for sure.
And I know there are different types of bipolar, right? Like, what's the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2?
Yeah, good point. So we have bipolar I and bipolar 2. Understanding the difference is super important. Bipolar I involves what are called full-blown manic episodes, think like really intense,
Oh, okay.
while bipolar 2 is characterized by hypomania. It's less intense, but still significant.
Hold on. Mania, that's a word that brings up some pretty intense images.
Right.
And the book actually describes mania, this is wild, as feeling invincible, racing thoughts, way less need for sleep, almost like a superpower, but like gone wrong.
You know, it might sound kind of appealing at first,
I know, right?
but trust me, mania is nothing to romanticize. It can have really serious consequences.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Think impaired judgment, risky behaviors, even hospitalization or psychosis in some cases.
That's a lot. And this reminds me of that case study, George the lawyer.
Oh, yeah, George.
High-functioning guy, but man, his story really brings this home. At first, he was super productive, working late, on top of the world. But then it spiraled. Handing out business cards to strangers, drinking a ton, barely sleeping. Like, it just shows how tricky it can be to know what's really going on.
Absolutely. Mania can be subtle at first, even seem like you're just crushing it at life, which is why you really need a professional to assess what's happening. It's not just about identifying bipolar, but ruling out other things that could be going on.
Things that might look like mania, but are actually something else entirely.
Exactly. Things like schizophrenia or even substance use that can really mess with your mood.
So a professional can help figure out if it's just normal ups and downs or something more serious.
Yeah, they can help you sort through it all. Speaking of different diagnoses, I want to dive a bit deeper into bipolar I and A. We talked about bipolar I and mania, but what about bipolar 2 and that hypomania thing?
Yeah, break that down for me. How is hypomania different from what George was going through with the full-blown mania?
Think of it this way. Hypomania is kind of like a milder version of mania. You still have that elevated mood, the energy, racing thoughts, but it doesn't go to those extremes like in bipolar I.
So someone with hypomania might not even realize it's a problem.
That's exactly it. That's why bipolar 2 is often missed or misdiagnosed.
Oh, wow.
People might just think they're feeling really good, productive, outgoing. Could even be like a positive change, they think.
Like Cheryl, the mom in the book.
Yes, Cheryl.
She was getting so much done, felt great, thought she was just thriving. But it turned out to be hypomania.
Classic case.
And it ultimately led to her crashing, burning out, getting irritable.
Yeah, it can sneak up on you, and it shows how bipolar I and bipolar 2, even though they're different, can both have a huge impact on your life, even if you don't realize what's causing it. Both need professional help. Both need treatment.
Okay, so we've got these two main types, but there's more to this picture, right? The book mentioned mixed episodes, and those sound particularly rough.
Oh, they are. It's like imagine having manic symptoms and depressive symptoms all at once. So you're energized, but hopeless, agitated, but withdrawn. It's a tough one.
Whoa, that sounds so confusing, so distressing.
It is. The book describes it as feeling completely out of control, like your internal compass is just spinning wildly.
And to add even more complexity, there's also rapid cycling, right?
Yes, don't forget rapid cycling.
Where you have like 4 more of these mood episodes in a year.
It's like a roller coaster you can't get off of.
So not only are the episodes intense, but they're happening back to back. That just sounds exhausting.
Oh, it is. And rapid cycling often means it's harder to manage the disorder. The outcomes aren't as good.
Okay, my brain is already doing flips trying to keep up with all this. Bipolar 1 and T, mixed episodes, rapid cycling. Is there anything else we need to know about all these different types?
You know what? There is one more piece to the puzzle.
Oh, no.
It's called cyclothymic disorder, and it's considered a milder form of bipolar disorder.
Okay, so less intense than either or two. But maybe, what, longer lasting?
It's chronic. Think of it like living on a constant low-grade roller coaster. You've got those ups and downs, but they don't quite reach the extremes of full-blown mania or major depression.
So you're kind of always riding the waves, never hitting those peaks and valleys, but still feeling the effects.
Exactly. And just like with bipolar 2, cyclothymia can be tricky to catch because the symptoms might not seem that bad.
Right, you might not think, oh, I need to see someone about this.
Right, exactly. But anytime your moods are interfering with your life, it's worth getting it checked out.
That's a good point. We've covered all these types of bipolar, but I'm curious, what's going on in the brain? Like, what causes this roller coaster of moods and behavior?
That is the million-dollar question, and that's what we're going to get into right after this.
All right, so we've talked about all these different ways bipolar disorder can show up, but now let's get into the nitty-gritty. What's happening in the brain to cause all this? Right, we've explored the what, now I want to know the why. What are some of the leading theories about, like, the root causes?
Well, the book gets deep into the biology. From brain chemicals to genes, there's no easy answer, which makes it even more interesting.
Oh, I love a good mystery.
Right. One theory that caught my eye is the dysregulation theory. It suggests that with bipolar disorder, the brain just has trouble staying in a stable mood state, kind of like a thermostat gone haywire.
So instead of smoothly adjusting to changes, it's swinging back and forth between extremes.
Exactly. And then there's the kindling theory.
Kindling, like starting a fire.
Yeah, like that. It proposes that each mood episode actually makes the brain more sensitive to future episodes, so each one is like a spark that makes it easier to ignite a bigger flame next time.
Whoa, that's kind of a scary thought, like a snowball effect for mood swings.
Yeah, kind of. And it really highlights why early intervention is so important. The fewer episodes, the less kindling you accumulate. But those are just two of the theories. The book also digs into neurotransmitters, those brain chemicals that act like messengers.
Okay, so if they're like messengers, what messages are getting messed up in bipolar disorder?
Well, you've got dopamine, which is linked to pleasure and reward, and norepinephrine, which plays a role in alertness and arousal. In bipolar disorder, the balance of these messengers can get thrown off, which contributes to those intense highs and lows.
So it's like the brain's communication system is going haywire, sending out mixed signals.
Perfect analogy. It's like the wires are crossed, leading to those extreme shifts in mood, energy, behavior, the whole nine yards.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got dysregulation, kindling, neurotransmitters going rogue. Anything else playing a role in this brain puzzle?
Oh, absolutely. Don't forget the HPA axis. That's the brain's stress response system. It releases hormones like cortisol to help us deal with tough situations. But in bipolar disorder, the HPA axis can get stuck in overdrive, making people more sensitive to stress and more likely to have mood episodes.
Oh, so their stress response is on high alert all the time.
Exactly, and that constant stress can really wear you down. And of course, we can't forget about genetics. Family and twin studies show pretty clearly that bipolar disorder has a genetic component.
So if someone in your family has it, you're more likely to get it too.
It does increase your risk, but it's not a guarantee. Just because it runs in your family doesn't mean you'll definitely develop it. It just means you might be more susceptible.
So, like, you inherit the potential, but other things like environment and lifestyle play a role too.
Exactly. It's nature and nurture working together.
This is all fascinating, but I gotta be honest, it's a lot to absorb.
It is, and we're just scratching the surface of what the book covers.
I think our listeners are probably ready for some good news by now. Let's switch gears and talk about treatment. What can people do if they're struggling with bipolar disorder?
That's the key question. And here's the thing. While therapy and lifestyle changes are really important, medication is often the cornerstone of managing bipolar disorder.
So it's not just about talking it out or learning coping skills. Medication really plays a big role.
It does. Remember those neurotransmitters we talked about? Medications can help regulate those brain chemicals that are contributing to the mood swings. It's about getting those communication systems back online and working properly.
So it's like giving the brain the tools it needs to function better.
Exactly. We're going to get into the specifics of those medications and how they work right after this.
Okay, so we're back and ready to wrap up our deep dive into bipolar disorder. We've covered the different types, theories, even touched on medication. But before the break, you mentioned that therapists have some specific skills when it comes to helping people with bipolar disorder. What exactly did you mean by that?
Well, we don't prescribe meds. That's the psychiatrist's domain. But we work really closely with them to make sure the person is getting the best possible care.
So it's more like a team effort. You're both working together?
Absolutely. A partnership. We each bring our own expertise to the table. Bipolar affects the whole person, not just their brain chemistry.
Makes sense. But working with bipolar, that can't be easy, right? Give it all the ups and downs, the changes.
It definitely has its challenges. One of the biggest is navigating those shifts in mood and energy. One week a client might be really engaged, super insightful, and then the next week they're withdrawn, irritable. You got to be able to adapt, be flexible.
How do you even stay consistent in therapy when the client's experience is changing all the time?
It's all about building a safe space, a supportive environment. They need to know that you get them no matter what mood they're in. So you meet them where they are, adjust your approach as needed.
So sometimes it's about actively problem-solving, teaching skills, and other times it's just being there, listening.
Exactly. And education is huge. We really need to teach our clients about bipolar disorder, help them understand their own patterns, their triggers. The more they know, the more they can take control.
So it's not just managing symptoms, it's giving them the knowledge to be in charge of their own experience.
Right. And that's where therapy can really make a difference. We dig deep into those psychological and emotional pieces of the puzzle. It helps them gain insights, find coping strategies that work for them. They start to see that bipolar doesn't define them. They can still live a full life.
What are some of those therapy skills that really help with bipolar?
Active listening is number one. People with bipolar often feel misunderstood, judged. So you have to create a space where they feel truly heard. Be present, pay attention to what they're saying and how they're saying it.
Like letting them know that their experience is real, even when it's confusing or overwhelming to them.
Yeah, that validation is key. You acknowledge how intense their emotions are. No judgment. It's about saying, hey, I hear you, I see you, and what you're feeling makes sense.
And patience, right? With bipolar, there are going to be setbacks.
Oh, for sure. Recovery isn't a straight line. That will be ups and downs. So we support them through those tough times, help them learn from the experience, remind them that progress isn't always perfect.
Celebrate the small wins and see setbacks as opportunities for growth.
Exactly. It's all about building resilience, that inner strength. They need the skills to face the challenges that life throws their way.
It sounds like working with bipolar, while challenging, is also super rewarding.
It really is, to see their growth, resilience, determination. It's amazing. It's about helping them find hope again, take back their lives. They have so much to offer.
That is so powerful. We've learned so much today about bipolar disorder, the different types, the theories, the treatments, the role of therapy. What's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all this?
The big thing is bipolar is complex, but it's not a life sentence. With the right support, treatment, self-care, people with bipolar can live incredible lives. It's about finding that balance, embracing the journey, never giving up hope.
That's a beautiful message. And I hope it gives hope to anyone listening who's struggling with bipolar or knows someone who is. If you're out there and you relate to anything we've talked about today, please reach out for help. Early intervention is so important. There are resources out there, people who understand, who want to support you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into bipolar disorder. Remember, knowledge is power, and understanding is the first step to healing.